All right, y'all. Had a couple technical difficulties when I tried to start this up a couple minutes ago, so we're a little behind schedule. But we're going to go ahead and get it rolling. Thank y'all for being with me tonight. Like I always say, y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, right? Thank y'all. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. All the support. The support has been through the roof. Y'all really shown me, you know, just that love and that care, right? You know what I'm saying? I appreciate all of y'all. So let's rock out. Let's rock out tonight. We're gonna take care of a couple different topics, couple different hot topics out there. Not gonna try to talk y'all head off for too long. I understand it's late. I understand, you know, people got jobs, people got things to do. So do I. So, you know what I mean? I'm not going to try to make this a long-winded episode, but I do want to tackle a few different topics here. So get your drink, get your smoke, get whatever it is that you do, whatever it is that you indulge in, or if you don't indulge in nothing, ain't no problem with me. No judgment zone. I want everybody to join the show. I want everybody of all ages to join the show. You know, come kick it with me while we go ahead and we do this thing. All right? No, it really blows me when you have technical difficulties. You know what I mean? Because you start streaming, you start filming, and it's genuine, right? Like, it's genuine. You can't replicate something that you done already did. Even though I was recording for like 11 minutes or so, it was genuine. You know what I mean? So trying to reduplicate that is tough, man. It's tough, and I'm starting to learn this process of being a YouTuber and having a show on here. So bear with me. But like I always tell y'all, I'm open to all suggestions. I'm open to positive, negative feedback. All feedback is the same for me. So I appreciate y'all for being here with me tonight. And we're gonna rock out. We're gonna rock out. Buckle your seatbelt. Buckle your seatbelt. It is NDBR episode 4. So, a couple different topics. We're gonna go ahead and jump right into it. So, let's go ahead and get right into it. So, we're gonna start this right off the bat. Right, we're gonna talk about Kevin Durant. We're gonna talk about Kevin Durant and his potential trading spots. If you don't know, which I'm sure most of y'all know by now, if you follow the sport world, and get your updates, Kevin Durant is getting ready to be on the move. It's basically inedible at this point. He's gonna move. Phoenix, I don't think it's anything negative. Like, I don't think it's anything negative. I think it's just a mutual decision at this point to let Kevin Durant go ahead and see what else he can, go see what other teams he can potentially join to try to get them over the hump, to try to win them a championship. Kevin Durant is not a locker room issue type of guy. He's not a, off the court issue kind of guy. He's not beefing with teammates and doing all of that stuff. So this has nothing to do with, Kevin Durant being a problem per se in Phoenix. I just think it's something that, they tried it and it just didn't work. They never had a true point guard over there. They tried to make it work with Bradley Beal, who's not a point guard, who also, you don't know if he's playing or not. And your best ability is your availability, right? So if you're Kevin Durant, you tried to make it work. You're thinking, oh my goodness, I got Bradley Beal, I got Devin Booker, and myself. Oh man, please just give me a couple more players. Give me a 4 and a 5. Give me a couple rotational players off the bench, and we'll go ahead and take this thing to the finals. That's what they went into this thinking. For obvious reasons, it did not pan out that way. So Phoenix is now trying to move on, and Kevin Durant is also trying to move on as well. So it's a mutual agreement. There's no negativity involved with this particular trade of Kevin Durant. If you've been following what's been going on with him, then you know, just like I know, that there are three teams right now currently at the forefront of Kevin Durant, with two of them actually sticking out a little bit more. I don't know if y'all have that piece of information, which we're going to get into, but it's three teams that are heavily in contact with Kevin Durant and trying to make a deal. You have the Spurs, you have the Miami Heat, and you have the Houston Rockets. So I'll say that one more time. You have the San Antonio Spurs, you have the Miami Heat, and you have the Houston Rockets. As we just touch on these three teams, before we touch on these three teams, like I mentioned, two of those teams are at the forefront, according to Shams, who is an ESPN. He reports for ESPN. He's on NBA Today. He's on a lot of different shows on ESPN. Does a lot of great work. Shout out to him. I get a lot of information from him. Usually, he's more like an Adam Schefter when it comes to NFL, right? Like when Adam Schefter speaks in the NFL, you listen. If you're smart, you listen to what Adam Schefter has to say when it comes to NFL, because he's plugged in. He's extremely plugged in, and he has a trust factor with these different organizations to where he's not going to say too much, right? He's not going to say anything that they don't want him to say. Right? Remember that. He's not going to say nothing that they don't want him to say. So anything he does say, remember, he got it from them, and they're okay with him saying it. And that's the same thing when you talk about Shams in the NBA. He's plugged in. He's been around for a while. He just recently got on ESPN not too long ago. And, now everything is starting to kind of take off for him as far as his following and things of that nature. But Shams has been around if you follow the league. But Shams reported that it's those three teams, but it's two teams in particular that are in the forefront to get a Kevin Durant. You're talking about a career guy of over 27 points per game. This is a guy that gets 30 in his sleep. Still post injury when he tore his Achilles, his game was never predicated on athleticism, so it really didn't have too much of an effect on him. Obviously, he had to work hard to get back, even mentally and physically. But he's back, and he's been playing at the same level, if not better, than he played before the injury. He, like I said, he's he's 27 on his career. But you can basically mark him down for a good 27 to 30 per night. He's super, super efficient. He is one of the best scorers that the NBA has ever had. Let me make sure everybody understands that. Kevin Durant is one of the best scorers that the NBA has ever had, ever seen, ever dreamed about having. That's how good Kevin Durant really is. There's a lot of people that kind of compare his game to Larry Bird, but that's really coming from the efficiency part of his game, because I don't even think Kevin Durant passes as well as Larry Bird. So I don't even know if you rank the top 10. I don't know if you would have Kevin Durant over a Larry Bird. I know it's a lot of people that probably would say hell no. But yeah, like I just off the top of the dome, I know he don't pass as well as Larry Bird. So now you start talking about defense and other stuff like that. But that's the kind of game he has. But those two teams that are in the forefront right now to land a Kevin Durant, if you do not know already, are the Houston Rockets and the Miami Heat. As Shams reported, the Spurs are not heavily pursuing Kevin Durant. They are trying to get him. They're acquiring. They are trying to acquire him. They're inquiring. I'm sorry. They're inquiring because they're trying to acquire him. But they're not. Their offer is not as strong right now as the Rockets and the Rockets and the Heat. The Rockets and the Heat. When you start to break these teams down and look at it, we're not going to go too far into it, but you look at obviously you look at a Wemby on the San Antonio Spurs with a Kevin Durant. I mean, wow, right? Like that combination is crazy when you think about as far as a duo, right? But just like, the Spurs, the Rockets, the Heat, they're going to have to give something up in order to get Kevin Durant. So we look at Wemby and Kevin Durant. We say, okay, that's cool. But who are the Spurs really willing to give up? Because if I'm Phoenix, you might be able to offer me some draft picks, but I'm coming after some of them players. I'm sorry. I'm coming after some of them players. You're not just going to throw a couple draft picks at me and think that's just going to get the deal done. You could throw some in addition, but everybody knows the draft is a crapshoot. It doesn't matter how many picks you have. It's been proven in this history that, a lot of them don't really pan out. So I'm not throwing all my eggs in the basket of draft picks. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have to give me something. So if I'm Phoenix, if we're talking to the San Antonio Spurs, you're going to have to give me Vasil. You might have to give me a Keldon Johnson. Give me Vasil and Keldon Johnson and 2 of your first-round picks, and you can have them, right? Or give me Vasil 3 first-round picks and somebody else on their bench. It's going to be something like that. If Desmond Bane can get traded from Memphis to Orlando for 4 first-round unprotected draft picks, unprotected meaning it's just their next 4 draft picks, period, regardless. Doesn't matter what their record is at the end of the year. Doesn't matter what they finish with, blah, blah, blah. You're going to give up 4 first-round draft picks, plus Contavious Caldwell-Pope, a.k.a. KCP. All of that for Desmond Bane, and I believe it was another player included with KCP. I don't think it was just KCP. Chat, help me out if you know, but I don't think it was just KCP. I'm just missing it off the top of my head right now, but I think it might have been KCP, another player, and 4 first-round draft picks. Oh, Cole Anthony. So Cole Anthony from Orlando, back rotational guard for them, pretty good, but rotational guy at best. Him, and then you have KCP, and then you have 4 first-round draft picks. So you have that. You're going to have to give up somebody. You're going to have to give up somebody. So shout out to my guy, Josh, for being in the chat, man. Shout out to you, brother. Appreciate the support, man. Let's go ahead and as we look at the Rockets. Okay, let's look at the Rockets. You traded for Kevin Durant. You're going to have to give up something. I'm not taking first-round picks from you just for the hell of it for me to get Kevin Durant, because if Houston ends up being good, then those picks are at the back end of the draft anyway. And that's any of these teams that end up trading for Kevin Durant to have to give up their first-round draft picks. Your team is going to be better, ultimately. So the draft picks don't really have that much value with you winning, on top of the fact that the draft is a crapshoot, right? The draft's a crapshoot. So I'm not even guaranteed to get a superstar or get somebody of Kevin Durant's level or near Kevin Durant's level or anything like that. You don't know that for a fact, that any of those 4 first-round draft picks that you trade for are ultimately going to be significant enough to say, yeah, we made a good deal. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to give me a player. So if you're the Rockets, who are you giving up? Who are you giving up if you're the Rockets? Because if I'm Phoenix, first off, I'm asking for Fred VanVleet off the break, right? And that's not even that significant in this, but I'm asking for Fred VanVleet just because Phoenix didn't have a true point guard. Like I mentioned earlier, they were trying to, excuse me, they were trying to get Bradley Beal to run the one. He's not a true point guard. Not saying that he can't do it. Not saying that he can't fill the role. But, I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Like, who are we kidding? He's not a true point guard, right? So I would ask for Fred VanVleet off the break, and I'm probably asking for Smith, the young fella that they drafted maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was two seasons ago. It might be 3. Time be flying, boy. Time be flying, but it might be 2 or 3 seasons. But I'm asking for Smith, and I'm probably asking for Fred. And if you got Fred as a high regarded player, then maybe I'll just take those two and give me 2 first-round picks too. So give me Fred, give me Smith, give me 2 first-round picks. Or give me Fred, give me Smith, give me 3 first-round picks. However they work that out, but Smith is definitely in the occasion. They're not. I'm not even mentioning Jalen Green because Houston's not going to give up Jalen Green. They're not going to give up Jalen Green, and I don't think Phoenix would even want a Jalen Green because that's the Devin Booker role. Jalen Green did play point guard for the Rockets during, different moments of the game, but Fred VanVleet is the point guard. So if you're asking for a Jalen Green, that really wouldn't make sense, as he's a 2. Naturally, he's a 2 guard, and Devin Booker already occupies that spot. But Phoenix could ultimately move on from Devin Booker as well. I don't know. I kind of think they should blow it up, to be honest with you. Let Devin Booker go to another team, collect a bunch of assets. If you're Phoenix, I understand you not wanting to move on from a Devin Booker. You drafted him, right? Like, I get it. I understand you not wanting to move on from a Devin Booker. But at the same time, he's getting older. He's getting older. Right? He's still young. I'm just saying, when you're a front office, you're looking at this, like how many years, you're projecting. You're projecting as far as value is concerned and things of that nature. So Devin Booker's starting to get a little bit older. And right now your franchise isn't going anywhere, even with a D book. So maybe you explore blowing the whole thing up. You ship Kevin, you ship Devin, you ship Bradley, but the thing about Bradley Beal is he got that no trade clause. He's going to want his money, blah, 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 blah. But you could really set yourself up right now if you're Phoenix. If you do this right, you're setting yourself up to have a lot of assets and be able to move into the future. So those are the 3 teams that are in the forefront to acquire a Kevin Durant. But as I mentioned, the Rockets and the Miami Heat are making the stronger pushes. If you're Miami, you're going to have to give up who? Tyler Hero? I mean, just off the top of my head, I don't even think y'all got too much more than that. You're going to have to give up a Tyler Hero, probably another player in the rotation or on the bench, and about 3 first-round picks. If you're Miami Heat, does Pat Riley really want to do that? I don't know. We'll find out. So, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I think he ultimately ends up on the Rockets. I like the fit, and I just think the Rockets have more assets to really give up than any of those other teams. The Spurs are really, really close. You could even argue that the Spurs have more to give up, but again, they're not heavily pursuing Kevin Durant as much as these other 2 teams are. So, and that's because I believe the Spurs trust their young talent, right? They trust Wemby as an upcoming superstar in this league, and they trust the other young talent that they really do have. And they might not be willing to give up the farm for whatever Phoenix is asking for. So let's move on here. Like I mentioned, I really don't want to talk y'all head off. So yeah, chat. Yeah. Shout out to my man Josh. Yeah, I believe it's going to be I believe it's going to be Houston as well. But yeah, I just think they have more, I think they have more assets to give up. That's probably going to be the most likely trade. If the Spurs don't get a little bit more active. If the Spurs get a little bit more active, they could end up, jumping the Rockets, because you can make an argument of which one of those teams between the Rockets and the Spurs have more to give up as far as assets and young players are concerned. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens with that. But let's go ahead and move on to Arod. Let's talk about Arod and the Steelers. What you mean you don't want him? What you mean you don't want him? You want him. How you gonna shout out to my man Chris in the chat right now. But if you could team up KD and Wemby, why wouldn't you want him? I don't want to get too distracted from moving on to the next point, but what you mean you don't want him, man? Wemby, Kevin, who would y'all be able to keep? You probably be able to keep like you might have to give up what's his name? Sohan. You might have to give up Sohan. They got De'Aaron Fox over there. I don't think the Spurs would give up De'Aaron Fox, but again, you have to look at what Phoenix is going to want, right? And Phoenix does not have a point guard. They don't have a point guard. So if you're Phoenix, do you ask for Fox? Do you say, give me Fox and, I don't know, give me Fox and another rotational player and give me 3 first-round picks? Could you do that? You could do that, because I definitely think if they do business with the Rockets, they're asking for Fred VanVleet because they need a point guard in Phoenix. They've got to ask for a point guard. So, I think both of those teams, they have good amount of assets that they both can give up. I do like what the Spurs are doing as far as the young nucleus that they have. And if you're the Spurs, you might want to just sit tight. Keep building what you got, go into the draft, bring another young player over, let Wemby come back and continue to be the superstar that he is. I don't know. I might not be so quick to trade if I'm the Spurs, which is why right now Shams is reporting that they're not. They're not. They're not heavily pursuing Kevin Durant as much as the Rockets and the Heat. All right, y'all. So let's move on to Arod. Does Arod make the Steelers championship contenders? That is the question that we are asking. You know what I mean? Does Arod make the Steelers a championship mob? So, I don't really know if he does that, right? I don't really know if Arod does that. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you got to remember, Arod just came off of a season where he had, 5 wins? Arod had 5 wins last year with the Jets. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. We all know that football is the ultimate team sport. So we all know that it's not just solely on Arod. So we get that. What's understood doesn't have to be explained. But when you start to look at it, he came off an Achilles injury. He won 5 games. Maybe, just maybe, that second year off of the Achilles injury lifts A-Rod, right? Maybe he does play better. I remember A-Rod came out one year and said that his worst season is some of y'all best season, right? A-Rod said that. His worst season is some of y'all cats' best season. If we look at what Arod did last year, mind you, again, coming off the Achilles injury, he threw for almost 4,000 yards. He threw for almost 4,000 yards, which in today's game, you can kind of say that 4,000 is not like the biggest accomplishment, but it's still, you're still throwing for $4,000. So, you know, he almost did that. He had 3,897 passing yards last season. Played all 17 games. Completion percentage was 63%. You can look at that in a bevy of different ways. You can look at that from a play calling standpoint. You can look at it if you want to say that Aaron Rodgers is not as accurate as it used to be. You can say that, but you know, stats are what the stats are. He completed 63% of his passes, which is not a career low, but it's not near his best either. So you got him, you know, throwing for 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Now, the 11 interceptions for Arod, I would say, is more of an outlier, right? It's definitely more of an outlier because looking at his career, he's only thrown for, he's got a couple, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so out of A-Rod's career, he's got 4 seasons where he threw double-digit interceptions, including last season. 4. But he threw 28 touchdowns. I know a lot of quarterbacks in the league last year that didn't throw for 28 touchdowns. Didn't even come close to throwing for 28 touchdowns. Didn't even come close to throwing for 4,000 yards. So when you really look at it, with a quarterback rate of 90.5. Was he really that bad? I think that's the question that we have to start asking, right? Was A-Rod really that bad last year? Or were the Jets just not a good team? Were the Jets just not a good team? If I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, Chad, but they fired, you know, offensive coordinator, GM, like they made a lot of changes during the season. And that really typically doesn't bode well for anybody, not just A-Rod. But as I'm thinking about this, it was maybe episode 1 that I dropped, and I said that I didn't think that Aaron Rodgers was going to make any kind of a difference. I'm starting to backtrack that statement a little bit, which I have every right to do. I'm starting to backtrack that statement because I have seen players off that second year off of coming off a catastrophic injury like that, a torn Achilles, whatever. That second year, they're usually feeling a little bit better, right? They're feeling way better than they did that following season after coming back from the injury, which would be last season for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. And he had 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, almost 4,000 yards. Another season healthy? Is he going to get worse? Is Aaron Rodgers going to get worse than what he did last year? 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 90.5, 63% completion percentage, which isn't that great, but 3,800 and some change in passing yards, almost getting 4,000. Does he get worse or does he get a little bit better with the Steelers being a better franchise than the Jets as we currently speak? As we currently speak, the Steelers are held in way higher regard than the Jets. It's been proven, so on and so forth. When you really start to break it down, the Steelers with Mike Tomlin, they have never had a losing season. Everybody knows that already. But they have been getting piss poor quarterback play for a while, right? They've been getting piss poor quarterback play for a while. So if you look at Russell Wilson and Justin Fields last season, they did okay, right? Like Justin Fields was 4-2 before they pulled him, but I think people get a little too stuck on the record when it comes to what Justin Fields was with the Steelers because they were winning, but if you remember, they were winning based off that defense early in the season. It really wasn't what Justin Fields was doing. There were still complaints about him not stretching the field, which he does not do at a high level. Him tucking and running a little bit too soon. So, and to be honest with y'all, if the Steelers wanted to pay Justin Fields, if they really wanted Justin Fields, they would have paid him what the Jets paid him, $20 million per season. You know what I mean? You offer him a 2-year, $40 million deal, it's done. Because he wanted to come back, but he changed his mind on wanting to come back once the Steelers started acting like they didn't want no parts of him. You know what I mean? So, does Justin Fields, is he that great? We'll see. Russell Wilson played okay for about a 4 or 5 game stretch there, and then ultimately everything caught up with him too. So is Arod a better quarterback than both of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at this point in his career? That's up for debate. My gut feeling tells me that Aaron Rodgers is still better. He is still better than Russell Wilson or a Justin Fields. So to answer the question, does that put the Steelers in Super Bowl contention? I do not believe so. I do think that Aaron Rodgers makes them a little bit better. But again, the Steelers were going to win 9 games, maybe 10 games without Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? Because they're just a good team, and Mike Tomlin just doesn't have losing seasons, et cetera, et cetera. So does A-Rod move the needle just that much? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Does he move the needle enough to say that the Steelers are Super Bowl contenders? I don't think so. Could Aaron Rodgers help the Steelers get a playoff win, which they haven't done in years? Yes. I do think that Aaron Rodgers, let's just say the Steelers are in a wild card. Can Aaron Rodgers win a wild card playoff game? Sure. He can win a wild card playoff game. I don't got him getting to the AFC Championship, and I damn sure don't have him getting to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? I think that's a little far-fetched. But I think Aaron Rodgers can have a good season. I think he can get them to the playoffs, which was probably going to happen with or without him. And I think he can win a game in the playoffs. I just don't see him I don't see them as true contenders. Let's go ahead and move on to the next subject here. Who wins the Browns quarterback job, right? It's been rumored that the Browns are going to carry about 4 quarterbacks into the season. That is what's been rumored right now. They're going to carry about 4 quarterbacks, meaning Flacco is slated to be your starter right now. You got Dylan Gabriel, who, for all intended purposes, you might not, want to agree with it, whatever. But for all intended purposes, Dylan Gabriel is ahead of him on the depth chart if we were to just go into it right now. And then you got Shador as quarterback 3. And then you got Watson or somebody else that they have. But it's rumored that they're only going to carry about 4 quarterbacks to the start of the season. The Browns do have 2 first-round draft picks next season in a trade that they made with the Jags, right? When they traded the Jags for the Jags to be able to get Hunter. For the Jags to be able to get Travis Hunter, they gave up their next year first round pick. So the Browns are sitting pretty when it comes to draft picks. They're terribly ran for organization, but they're sitting pretty as far as draft picks because the quarterback discussion is always going to come up until you prove that you have one, right? Always going to come up until you prove that you have a quarterback. It's going to be a topic of discussion throughout the regular season. Mark my words, y'all. Mark my words. They're going to be talking about the Browns and these 2 first-round picks that they got as we get deeper into the season. Because you're not really expecting the Jags to be too good, and you're not expecting the Browns to be too good. And the Browns have their own pick, and they have the Jags' first-round pick of next season. So the Browns could be sitting in a really pretty position and end up getting a quarterback that they actually want. But we'll see. If you're just asking me right now, I do expect Shador to be on the field by about week 7 or week 8. That's what my gut tells me right now. I think Shador takes over about week 7, week 8, because they're not going to be doing so hot. The Cleveland Browns, that is. Maybe they got about 3 wins at that point, maybe 4, but most likely about 2 or 3 wins by the time you get to week 8. And then they're going to roll the young guy out there. That's just what I believe. So I'm looking forward to seeing Shador out there. He got to put the work in. And I do believe with everything that we've seen from Shador that he's up for the challenge. I'll say that. He's up for the challenge, and he's going to push himself to be the best that he can be every single day in practice. He's going to push himself to win that job. And when you're a young cat and you know you have at least an opportunity, that's when they seem to kick it into overtime as far as the work ethic is concerned with young cats. So we'll see what the Browns ultimately do, but I do believe Shador will ultimately end up being in that starting role probably about week 7, week 8. So I'm not going to get to everything tonight. I just don't want to talk your heads off. I don't want to talk your heads off. I know people got places to be, things to do in the mornings. So I don't want to go too far with it. On the next episode, we're going to talk about Jaden Daniels in year 2. Chat. We're going to talk about JD5 in year 2. Jaden Daniels, a.k.a. JD5, a.k.a. Jedi 5, a.k.a. I got 5 on it, a.k.a. I want 5 of them things, a.k.a. he's just a dog, a.k.a. I'm just a dog, a.k.a. I'm just one of them. I'm one of them ones. I got a lot on that, but I don't want to try to rush and try to squeeze all that information that I have in on that as to why I think Jaden Daniels will, one, have a better season than he did last year. I think at minimum we will be right back where we left off last year. And I'm going to get into a little bit of why I think the Commanders, your Washington Commanders, if you're not a Washington fan, who cares? I'm going to get into why I think the Commanders are legitimate Super Bowl contenders, which they have them 6 right now, according to Vegas, as Super Bowl odds. And I'm going to tell you why I'm picking us to win the Super Bowl next season. That's right. You heard it right now. Loud and clear, live on the NDBR show. I am rolling with the Commanders to win the Super Bowl. Excuse me. Which I've never said before. I've never said that before. Never, ever, 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 ever in my history of me being 34 years old and watching this team, never have I ever said that we would win the Super Bowl. But I feel really good about it. I feel really, really, really good about it. And we'll get into that next episode. For my last topic here tonight, we're going to cover a little bit about the Browns, right? Let's talk about the Browns and this Shamar Stewart situation and him leaving the facility. He left on the last day of mandatory minicamp. And long story short, they are trying to put a clause in his contract that they have never done before. They have never done it before. Excuse me. That same clause, other teams have done it. The particular clause that I'm talking about, other teams do have it. They've done it before, but the Bengals have never done it, right? And that's what makes it different, right? Because I'm on the Bengals. I'm not on another team that has it in their contract, whatever. I'm on the Bengals. The Bengals have never put this kind of language inside of their contract. Why are you trying to do it to me? Why? Why are you trying to do it to me? So I feel Stewart, he does have potential to enter the draft again next season and get drafted by a new team. The only problem with that is that he is leaving a lot of money on the table. He's leaving a lot of money on the table because, believe it or not, I'm telling you, as talented as teams think he is, if he has a year off of football, decides to come back to the draft next season, he ain't going pick 17 or 18, whatever. I think it was pick 18. He's not going 17, 18, whatever. He's not going there. He's going to either fall to the end of the first round, like 30-something, or he's going to be in the next, the second or the third. They might even drop him to the third just based off of him not playing last season. So, the Bengals are just showing that they're just a terribly ran organization, right? And Shamar Stewart put out a tweet, saying that the Bengals were more interested in winning arguments than winning games. Mind you, you don't typically have rookies coming out saying stuff like that, but I'm rocking with him on this. I'm rolling with Shamar Stewart on this, man. The Bengals are too caught up in their own shit. They too caught up in a whole bunch of BS that don't got nothing to do with winning games on the field, man. You still got Trey Hendrickson out here sitting without a deal. You know what I'm saying? You got your best defensive player, 17 and a half sacks per season, the last 2 or 3, and you're struggling to even get him back on the books. And now you draft a young fella, another stud, to add to a Trey Hendrickson, which can help Trey Hendrickson. You don't want to do that either. Man, I'd be hard. And then I just saw the other day that they let Jermaine Pratt go. The Bengals let Jermaine Pratt go. The best linebacker they had on the team last season, they let him go. And I'm assuming, just based off of what they've done, their track record, it's almost like you're getting rid of Pratt before because you see that you're going to have to pay him eventually. Like, that's what it looks like. Why would you get rid of Pratt? Pratt balled out for them last year. The one of few bright spots that the Bengals actually had. Like, that makes no sense. That makes no sense. You're asking Joe Burrow to be perfect. You're asking him to be perfect in the NFL that's just not going to allow that. As great as Joe Burrow is, and I love me some Joe Burrow. I love Joe Cool. I really do. I love watching him play. He ain't my squad, but I love watching him play. He's a stud. Joe Cool is a stud, bro. And anybody that argues that is stupid and they don't watch football. Joe Burrow's a top 5 quarterback in this league. But he can't do it himself. He's not going to be able to do it himself. Every year, the defenses evolve in this league, man. They evolve, and they just get better. And you're obviously going to have to put in the work to combat that. But the Bengals are putting too much on them. Maybe they're doing that to ultimately be, if it doesn't work out, maybe they're doing that to be like, hey, it was him, it wasn't us, right? He came to us and he asked us to re-sign Jamar Chase. We did that for our star quarterback. He said, bring back T. Higgins. We did that for our star quarterback. Maybe that's what the Bengals is doing. Maybe they're saying, I'm going to give Joe Burrow everything he's asking for, and if he don't get it done, then it ain't our fault. We can go ahead and blame him, and we can move him like we did Carson Palmer. Don't forget, this stuff is in these guys' track record, man. Stuff is in these guys' track record. I'm really disgusted with the Bengals organization, just with how they carry things. This is the NFL, bro. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Are y'all not trying to win? You know what I'm saying? They ain't trying to win. They ain't trying to win. They do want Joe Burrow to throw a bunch of touchdowns and make sure that they got primetime games and things of that matter, but they not trying to win no Super Bowl. But saying all of that, right? Saying all of that, the Bengals, as much as I say that the Bengals are a terribly ran franchise, right? Which I would assume most of y'all agree with. They've been in the Super Bowl more recent than a lot of teams. A lot of teams. They've been to the Super Bowl more recently than the Ravens, who I would say the Ravens are better than the Bengals. I think the Ravens are better than the Bengals. But the Bengals have been to a Super Bowl more recently than them, more recently than the Steelers, damn sure more recently than the Browns. That's three. That's 3 other teams. if you look at that division with the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Browns, and the Bengals have a more recent Super Bowl appearance than any of those teams. So now you start to think, like, how poorly are they ran, right? How poorly are they ran if they can say, well, we went to the Super Bowl more recently than you. You trying to say that we doing a shit job, but we got to the big game. As great as Lamar Jackson is, he ain't been there yet. There's been reasons. I'm not going to sit up here and act like it ain't been reasons. I'm not going to sit up here and act like the Ravens didn't have the most injuries in the league for maybe 2 of Lamar Jackson's seasons. They never really had a primary number one. They ain't had nothing like a T. Higgins or a Jamar Chase. So you could say that about the Ravens. You could say a lot as to why the Ravens haven't been in the game. The point is once you start deciphering through why they haven't been, you get back to the main point of they haven't been, right? You justify it. You say this didn't happen. This injury happened. This happened. At the end of the more the results are what the results are. And the Bengals can say that they have been to a Super Bowl more recently than any of those other teams in their division. Which is actually very, kind of like when you hear that, it's kind of like, man, how is that even possible if the Bengals are such a poorly ran organization? And that's where I struggle with this. Because I do think that the Bengals are being cheapskates. I do think that they're, just doing whatever they want to do. But, to not have Shamar Stewart under contract, the rookie you just drafted, is a little ridiculous. To not have Trey Henderson re-signed by now is ridiculous. Because you don't have anybody else in that defense that even matters. And with Pratt gone, like I said, at the middle linebacker spot, I challenge people to really name off Bengals defensive players without looking it up. The first name that's probably going to come to our head is Taylor Britt at cornerback, right? Taylor Britt at cornerback that got torched last season, and definitely got torched by 17 on the Commanders, a.k.a. Terry McLaurin. But he got torched by a lot of people, Cameron Britt did. So, outside of him, they didn't keep Jesse Bates. They just, I don't know, man. The Bengals are a poorly run organization, but they struck gold with the quarterback. So they've been to a Super Bowl more recently than more than half the teams in the NFL. So if that's the case, are they really going to start to think that they're doing something wrong, or they're going to change a philosophy or something like that if it's been working? Probably not. So, with that being said, y'all, like I said, I'm not going to talk your ear off. I do think that Shamar Stewart should be holding out. I don't expect to see him anywhere near that franchise until they decide to change that contract language. It would be stupid of him to risk his body, obviously, without signing something, obviously, right? But they're just going to miss that whole piece during the training camp unless they get this right. Ultimately, I do think that they will end up fixing the verbiage in the contract that gets him to play there. But now you're starting off this relationship really rocky. You're starting this relationship off really, really rocky. And it's like, do I want to play for them? I don't know. You know what I mean? But as the rook, once they fix the language and all that, you're going to play. But how motivated are you to play for an organization that that you think in your head was trying to get over on me? They was trying to one-up me real quick. So I'm going to give y'all this last piece of information before we get out of here. The Bengals drafted 18th overall last season. They also drafted 18 and 27 last season. I'm sorry. The year before this year, they drafted an 18th, and then they had a 27th pick. Neither one of them dudes had the clause that they're trying to put in Stewart's contract. Neither one of them. Same exact pick number as him. You didn't put it in his contract. Then you bounced to the 27th pick. You didn't put it in his contract. So if I'm Shamar Stewart, talking to my legal team and talking to, you know, the people around me that support me the most, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. Y'all gonna fix that damn language. Y'all gonna fix that language and stop trying to play me like I'm some sucker. Y'all gonna fix that. So I ain't even mad at them for doing that. And but like I said, ultimately I do think that it gets dealt with in a timely fashion. So look, y'all, you know, I appreciate y'all for being with me tonight. We are gonna wrap this up right now. Next episode, we're gonna get into Terry's contract, Terry versus the Commanders. Sorry that I was not able to get to that tonight for my Commander viewers out there, but I promise you, we will tackle that next episode. Terry versus the Commanders. When do they give him his contract? Do we expect it to be before training camp? Is he worth the amount that he's asking for? I think he is. NFL might beg to differ, or those business people might beg to differ. I do think he is worth it, and ultimately I think it gets done, but we'll get into more little detail about that next episode. Like I mentioned, we're going to dive into Jaden Daniels a little bit more as far as year 2 loading. Year 2 for Jaden Daniels loading. We're going to get into that next episode. I got a lot to cover on that. Y'all, because I think a lot of y'all are sadly mistaken when it comes to JD5. I think you're trying to go against the eye test. You're trying to find some reason in there as to why he's not that great, or most of y'all reasoning is gonna be he's got to do it for more than one season, Dre. He had one good rookie year, Dre. He's got to do it for a little bit more than that. Yeah, when you start talking about career accolades and is he a GOAT? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you got to start talking about career and longevity. How many years you been doing it? How many MVPs? How many Super Bowls? How many Super Bowl MVPs? All of that stuff happens after your longevity in the league is there. But I got news for you. This is a kid that's going into his second year right now that's ranked as the number 5 quarterback in the league. He's ranked as the number 5 quarterback in the league after 1 year. And you know why? It's because the eye test. The eye test, it's not going to lie to you. He's great. Jaden Daniels is great. And before I get too far in depth into that, I'm going to save it for the next episode. So I appreciate y'all for joining me on NDBR. Make sure y'all here for the next episode. That's going to be episode 5 coming up. And we're going to have some fun and we're going to do that. Please give me your feedback. Send me a comment, like, subscribe. Send me the topics that you want me to discuss. Send me whatever, positive, negative feedback. Send it to me. I accept it all, y'all. I accept it all. I'm looking forward to doing this again with y'all. It's going to be episode what? It's going to be episode 5 next time, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in to NDBR. Y'all see I got that light fix, right? Y'all see I got that light fix. Everybody been talking about the light, so I got the light now. We up and popping. I'm going to keep on upgrading. I'm going to keep on developing as y'all stay locked in with your boy. Stay locked in with me. Support the movement. You know, everybody talk a good game about supporting their brothers and supporting the people that they fool with, but do y'all really support them though? Do y'all really support them? Are y'all watching the lives? Are y'all sharing the streams? Are y'all doing all of that? Hey, I can't call it. But I hope if you rocking with me, that you stay true to that and y'all help me get this thing off the ground and keep it rolling. So I will see y'all next time on NDBR for episode 5. Engagement tonight. Shout out to y'all, man. Y'all are awesome.